JJ here. I run this page, Adirondack Adventures. Thanks for stopping by to visit. One of the things I kind of wanted to do a video on was how I got involved with the Adirondacks. Different people, I'm sure, have different motivations. Some probably in for the workout, some probably live in the area and just start hiking to, because they like nature. I've always enjoyed nature. I grew up in the Ithaca, New York area, so the 6 Mile Creek of Ithaca was my backyard. The reservoirs back there, we used to play around those a lot, hike the trails back there. So I've always had an interest in nature. And then in 2016, my buddy, my good friend who I grew up playing volleyball with, his family rented a house on Long Lake. And if you know anything about Long Lake, that's the trailhead for Owl's Head. Well, that was literally right around the corner from the house where they rented. So he had an interest in doing Owl's Head, but his family wasn't interested in doing a hike on that trip. So his wife didn't want him to go along because Owl's Head does have decent mileage. I think it's about 3.4 miles. He asked me if I'd come up and do the hike with him. I said, sure, love hiking, not a problem. So went up, had a backpack, just one for like school books and stuff, and threw some water in there, a couple snacks. We went out and we did the hike and get up to the fire tower. He climbs the fire tower, comes down and says, hey, there's another challenge I'd be interested in doing. There's some other mountains I'd like to be doing up here. It's called the Adirondack 46, and there are 46 mountains that are at or above 4,000 feet. And I said, I take it your family doesn't want to go with you. Your wife doesn't want to make these journeys. He's like, yeah, no. So I said, all right, I see where you're going with this. So I'm basically the guy that's going to get you off the mountain. He's like, pretty much. So I said, all right, what's your time frame? There's 46 mountains. What are you thinking? Like, we do it all in a year? And he's like, let's give ourselves 5 years to do it. I said, okay, that's reasonable. I was 45 at the time. He would be turning 45 later that year. I'm about half a year older than he is. And we grew up, like I said, we started playing together in high school back when we had Empire State games. So we've known each other, 30 years, 35 years pretty much. So we decided that when we did the Owl's Head hike, it was at the end of June. So we decided that we would start the next year. Really kind of making some plans. He had vacation plans already made that summer. I was still doing volleyball leagues down around where I am, and so we started doing some planning about it, figuring out the order. I let him do all the planning in the first years. He was really good at that. It was his kind of baby, his goal. My job is just to get him off the mountain. So we decided we'd start in May of the following year, which falls in my birthday month. We figured we'd take my birthday, and we offered a trip up for one of our other friends out in New York City, and we kicked it off that way. So basically we started on a big slide, and then decided to do Cascade and Porter the next day, and that was kind of how we started it. So yeah, for me, my interest was I'm just going to make sure my friend is safely off the mountain. I've enjoyed hiking. I've always enjoyed it. So it's partly because I enjoy nature as well. But honestly, how I got started in the Adirondacks was safety for a buddy, basically. And we were brand new. Like, we didn't have any idea about equipment, base layers. So basically our first hike, we had to stop at the REI and gear up and things like that, buy poles and base layers and and just different things like along better backpacks, really, and then figure things out from there. And you learn a lot as you do those hikes. So I learned a lot about my preferences about hiking in pants versus shorts. Do I want to carry water bottles or use a bladder for my water consumption? Do I like the tablets or do I like the filter in case I need a water supply? Also about planning. Like I said, I let him do all the planning early on, but then, knowing where water sources is, one trip when you run out of water, that becomes more important to you. So, if you drink a lot of water, and I found that, between the bladder and the water bottle, basically you don't see the water consumption in the bladder as much, but in the water bottle, when you pull it out, you know how much you have left. So it's easier to ration, I think, with water bottles. I think the planning is I learned a lot of lessons about, getting involved in the planning pretty much early on. And I'll do a separate video of how we paired everything together. But that was basically how I got involved in the Adirondacks and the 46. And then, you know, as we started doing the 46, other mountains kind of popped up. The Tupper Lake Triad popped up on the program I was using. I was using Peak Bagger to track my mountains, to track which ones I climbed, keep track. Some people do a spreadsheet, but I just found that Peak Bagger was the one for me. So then it puts all the mountains in a list, and it would tell me how close I was in the 46. And then I saw the Tupper Lake Triad show up. You know, I saw this Adirondacks 6 show up, so I started chipping away at some of those as well. Kind of did it backwards. Started with the 46, and then worked my way back to some of the lower stuff. Right now, I'm working on the Fire Tower Challenge. I'm 11 out of 23 there, and the Adirondack 29, which a bunch of the fire towers kind of cross over to both. So I'm kind of chipping away at both of those. Then I'll eventually continue on for the Northeast 115. We're going to do some of the Presidential Range this summer, so I figure once I get a few of those and that list builds up more, I'll get the edge to go up there. But yeah, it turned out to be just a favor to a friend to give his family some comfort that he was with somebody on the hike, or on his hikes when he goes up and works on his own goal to be a 46er. So yeah, we started that in 2017 and we finished it in August of 2019. So it took us 3 years instead of 5. We banged out 18 in the first year, another 15 in the second year, and then finished the final 13 in the third year. But again, I'll show you the videos on those, how we did them. But you can see like all the patches. You know, I've got a map of the Adirondacks in the center, and I've got the patches that you get from the Mountaineer, and then I included summit photos. So on each of these boards, I've got one that's opposite on the other wall, which is a light blue version of it, with another 23 patches and another 23 summit photos. So I did a 23-23 on my board, and I'll plan to do a video on putting that together also, because different people obviously like to display their patches a little bit differently if they're into that, and I definitely like it. It's a great visual when you come into my home. So, but enjoy the site. I'll be doing recaps on a whole bunch of other hikes, putting together videos and going back and building more content. So for you guys to kind of go and learn from our mistakes, and you know, get some tips for the hikes you're going to do. Thanks.